will only be, will not be able to speculate or make any analysis or draw any conclusions at this point. And I know that you're very interested in that, but we have to go through the sequence that we do. Dr. Rohde, would you care to address the weather circumstances as we know it at this point?
What we understand, reported to us from the airport, the FAA control tower shared that the visibility was approximately 3/4 of a mile, 5 knots of wind, and the cloud base was about 200 feet above the ground.
From what we know, the aircraft departed from runway 22 left and reached an altitude of about 900 feet and then started the left descending turn. There is no distress call that we were aware of, and air traffic control issued a low altitude alert warning as the aircraft passed through 700 feet. It's been reported to us that there were 6 people on board, 5 fatalities, 1 serious injury. On the ground, we have 1 serious injury and 2 minor injuries. The aircraft itself is a PA-31T, as in Tango, Cheyenne, twin-engine turboprop that was built in 1980. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking very carefully at the pilot's qualifications, the training that they had, medical certification, and also the history on the aircraft and its maintenance records. Dr. Rohde, would you brief us on the what air traffic noticed, or the witnesses?
We've had 2 witnesses reach out to us through our witness reporting capability on our NTSB website. Those witnesses have described to us the airplane being in a steep left bank turn, the airplane then rolling about wings level just prior to impacting the transmission lines and the trees that are in the parking lot next to the apartment complex, and then continuing to impact the ground and move through the impact sequence through the post office parking lot.
Thank you. We have 2 videos that have been turned into us, and we will be analyzing those here directly. Our team in Washington has also gathered this information. The avionics equipment on board the aircraft was pretty badly damaged. There is no flight data recorder that we know of at this time. We'll obviously be looking at that, but at this point there's not a lot to go on. We also have the radar track from the airport radar, which will give us a pretty good idea of the flight path on the aircraft. After we landed this morning, I had the opportunity to walk the crash site. The aircraft landed in pretty much a straight line, and the debris field is, I would estimate, about 1/4 of a mile. So it's a very sobering situation. Dr. Rohde, how long do you expect to be here?
My team will be on scene as long as it takes to properly document the witness marks and the damage to the wreckage that is on scene. We will be in the process of doing photo documentation and physical examination of the wreckage, securing components that can be examined further in a secure laboratory setting, with the goal of hopefully having all of the wreckage removed from the scene by the end of the day tomorrow, and moving it to a secure location where we will continue with the examination of the airframe, engine, and propellers.
Yeah, typically, these investigations will take anywhere from 12 to 18 months. That seems like a long time. It is, but we have to go through a lot of detail, and we want to be absolutely sure that we leave no stone unturned. If there are any additional witnesses, we have a email that you can reach us at witness@ntsb.gov, and we would be most appreciative if anybody has any video or witness statements. We'd certainly take that. I'll now take your questions. Please raise your hand. I'll call on you and state your name and who you are with. Ma'am?
Haley Hartog of ABC News. How experienced was the pilot?
Dr. Rohde, do we have any information on the pilot?
We do not have information on the pilot aside from the pilot was a commercial certificated pilot that it will be a part of our investigation. We'll be looking into the pilot's training and experience globally and then specifically with this airframe.
Yeah, that will be one of the key items, obviously, that we look at. We look at the person, the machine, and obviously the environment and so on. Ma'am?
Natasha Chen, CNN. Maybe you can speak to some of the conditions that you were just mentioning. Were there other flights that took off from the airport around the same time? The pilots complained of visibility problems in general. Is 3/4 of a mile pretty good to fly?
Were there any other flights that had taken off about at the same time, Dr. Rohde?
There were no flights 30 minutes prior to the departure of the accident airplane.
And are those conditions you described generally recommended for flying?
Are the conditions suitable for flying, I think is the question. Under Part 91, which is personal flight, there is no minimum required amount for takeoff, and so that's up to the pilot in command to make that decision as to what they should be doing. So we leave that up to the pilot. Yes, sir.
Sam Robert, NBC News. You said that there was a low altitude alert that was issued. It sounded like as the plane was taking off. Can you contextualize that? What does that mean?
The low altitude alert that I mentioned, given by the control tower, is what we call a minimum safe altitude warning. And what that is the area around the airport is mapped so that the controllers know where the obstacles and things are. I believe that warning came after the airplane had departed. So the airplane, our initial information is that the airplane climbed to 900 feet. The warning came when the airplane descended through 700 feet. There was no distress call, and what we know now, preliminary, is there was no conversation with the crew. Is that correct? Yeah. So, let's see. Yes, ma'am, you again.
Did any witnesses report seeing smoke coming from the plane before it went down?
Dr. Rohde?
We have received no direct statements from witnesses regarding smoke.
Sorry, was that warning issued on consequence of the weather? Why was that warning issued?
I'm sorry, say.
Low altitude alert. Why was that issued?
Low altitude alert. So why is the low altitude alert issued? That's issued anytime a controller is looking at their radar scope and the readout from the airplane. So they are getting both a bearing and a distance and an altitude readout from the aircraft. Whenever an airplane descends below the minimum safe altitude, in this case 700 feet, the radar will advise the controller this airplane is below the minimum safe altitude for this sector of airspace. The controller will then say to the pilot, minimum altitude alert, climb immediately, or something to that effect.
And how much does it hamstring you that there's no flight deck recorder with some sort of information on what's going on in the cockpit?
Dr. Brody?
Flight data recorders can provide us quite a bit of parametric data with regards to control inputs, indications that might have been coming from engines or different instrumentation. So when we don't have that data coming directly from a recorder, we go old school looking for witness marks throughout the wreckage and on the instrumentation that is available that was not damaged or destroyed by the impact or fire.
Yeah, suffice to say, it complicates the job tremendously when we don't have that. The wreckage is in pretty tough shape between impact damage and fire damage. So there's not a lot to work with. Our people are experts, though, and they will find it as much as they can. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, is it typical for this particular model of plane to have a flight data recorder, or does it not usually come with? And also, maybe you can speak to the timeline of the number of minutes from takeoff to that low altitude warning to when it actually comes up.
Okay. The question was, is this airplane typically equipped with a flight data recorder, and how long did the flight go until the minimum altitude warning? Is that correct? These airplanes typically will not have the flight data recorder as you would think of them with larger aircraft, the so-called black boxes, which are orange. But these lighter airplanes typically don't have it. Newer models will have what we call flight data monitoring, which can be tremendously helpful to us. Again, it's not as sophisticated, but it's very helpful. Dr. Rohde, any comments regarding the amount of time relative from takeoff until the MSAW warning?
Based on preliminary information from the FAA radar data, it was less than a minute from the time of rotation until the airplane impacted the ground.
We'll take two more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Claire Taylor of the Acadiana in Lafayette. If the flight had gone normal, what would we have expected instead of going?
Okay. If the flight had gone normally, you would have seen, at least initially, a relatively straight radar track as the airplane was on an initial climb, and then depending upon the direction of the route, so we're taking off to the southwest here, I believe, they would have most likely been making a turn around to the east, a left turn, to start on their course towards the Atlanta area. And the altitude at which they would have started that turn typically could be anywhere from 1,000 feet and higher. It just sort of depends, and they'll say turn on course and contact departure control. So the first 30 seconds or so of flight, the pilot is focused entirely on flying the airplane, setting a pitch attitude, and moving away from the ground. If something goes wrong one way or the other, we don't know what it is at this point, then things get much more complicated. Last question. Yes, ma'am.
Was the plane's landing gear down? And you've also described this wreckage as in particularly rough shape. Do you have any indications as to the speed of the plane at the time of impact or its angle at the time of impact?
So the question is, was the landing gear down, and estimated speed at impact? Dr. Rohde?
One witness who has pilot experience stated specifically that the landing gear was retracted. The attitude at the time of impact is estimated to be wings level. I do not have a nose down angle indication at this point, but the wreckage is massively fragmented and charred, melted, and partially consumed by fire.
Thank you all very much for being here. I believe that perhaps tomorrow we will have some more for you. This is an ongoing investigation. There's a lot to learn. It's going to be a challenging situation. We'll share as much as we possibly can with you. So thank you again for being here.
One of the things before we leave, we just want to say thank you to the media. You've done a wonderful job of reporting. We're asking to have privacy with the family. We're asking you not to contact the family. We've given you all the information we can give you. We've given you all of our contact information with our numbers and names. So if you want to speak to the family, please go through us and respect their privacy. Thank you.
Chief, can you speak to the people who were hearing about who rushed to help before emergency responders got there?
No, I'm going to let the NTSB handle that because it's their investigation now. We've done all we can do as a local fire department, and we're just going to support the family and keep everybody safe and just give you as much information as we possibly can during that time.
Mayor Joel Robideau, just want to say that from a local standpoint, we're prepared to help the NTSB in any way that they need. Certainly Chief Benoit, Chief Aguilar, and all the first responders are available. But most importantly, from a local standpoint, we're here to help the families of the victims and want to help them as they transition through this really difficult period. And so we're partnering with these guys any way that they need us to. And then working with the families, with CIDRA, our communications department, to make sure that we get the information to those folks. Thank you.
Mayor President Robideau's administration is working extremely hard throughout this process with the agencies. We will have a change of administrations come January 6th, and I want our community to know that my administration is serves in unity with Mayor President Robideau in the continuation of this agency or this investigation. Nobody knows why this happens. No one understands this. No one truly understands the mercy and will and love of God. But I know this. I know this community. We work together. We play together. We have fun together. We hurt together, and we will heal together. So I ask everybody that's watching or that's been affected with this accident, please send your prayers up to God and trust in His love and mercy. Thank you.